Hello and welcome to MidnightSilvercrafters.com. My name's Steve and I'll be your host. Today in this video we're going to talk about tips, tricks, and secrets to lost wax casting. This is a long video. If you don't have the time to watch this video, just save this video and then you can come back later and watch it. But I'm going to reveal some tricks and tips and secrets today that are absolutely critical to know if you're going to cast jewelry. Now, these are some ring. This is a ring I casted right here. Now, if you want to get results like this, you're going to have to know the information that I'm going to give you today. It's critical.
All right, well, I'm out here in the shop, sitting out here at my bench, and I'm working on some trees right now, and I thought this might be a good time to make a video. But what I'm going to talk about today is I'm going to talk about a few little things that should hopefully be really helpful for somebody that's getting into this or just might not know. There's some little tips and tricks and secrets that I want to share out here tonight with you. But what I'm doing here, I'm building a tree, and I just want to talk about spruing up your patterns, okay? And when you go to build a tree, okay, I'm going to talk about different. First, I'm going to talk about different size cans. If you know anything about this channel, I use food cans. I do everything on the cheap, and I just use food cans. But I want to show you now. Here's a couple food cans right here. These are molds. I ran these last night. These are a couple of the ones I ran. But these are 8-ounce food cans. This one's fatter and this one's just a little taller, but these are both 8-ounce food cans. All right, now if you're going to cast from about 1 to 4 rings, it's okay. These are good size cans to use right here. Okay, now if you use an 8-ounce can, there's different places you can get your investment, the powder, but if you use an 8-ounce can and you get the best price, which I'm going to leave a link down in the description for where the best price is. I had one of my subscribers just ask me that question. Flat Earth, okay. I just want you to know I appreciate you, and I appreciate all my subscribers. You guys really mean a lot to me, and if it weren't for you guys, I wouldn't even be able to do this. So I really appreciate everybody, my loyal subscribers. I really appreciate you guys. But he asked me about the best price for investment, and I told him right now the best price is on eBay, and I think it's about $50, $49, I believe, for 30 pounds of investment. But at that price of investment powder, okay, it's going to cost you to run an 8-ounce can like this. The investment is going to cost you $1.25, okay? So you're going to spend $1.25 on your investment if you're using this size of a can. And then, of course, you got your wax patterns, okay, which are typically, maybe it just depends on your patterns and the size, but about $2 or $3 a pattern, okay? But now, if you're going to run small cans like this, you can cast 1 or 2 ounces of silver. You can just use a small, you can use a torch. You really don't have to have a furnace, okay, for casting just a couple ounces. But you can use it. You can use like a big potato. Is a really good thing to use. Is just a potato for a crucible. Okay, that's one of the best crucibles that you can use is a potato. All right, but now when you're casting a small can like this, and you're using a potato, or just say you got a small little melting dish, okay, that you're going to be melting your silver in. The one thing, when you go to cast, the one thing that is absolutely critical is when you first thing you do, you melt your silver down in that potato or that crucible. But it's absolutely critical that before you pour your mold, you got to have, there's 2 things that you want to do that are absolutely critical. And number 1 is you gotta get all the impurities out of your silver. All right, now right here's some silver. Okay, right here's a little bit of silver. All right, I'll just weigh this out. Now this is just some bits and pieces. Okay, this is just some scraps. All right, I'm gonna weigh this out real quick here if I can get my scale to work and see what we got. But this would be good, you know, if you're making a small casting. Well, we got 101 grams. We got almost 3 ounces of silver. All right, now you're not going to melt probably roughly 3 ounces of silver. Is too much silver to put in a potato or a small crucible or a little small melting dish, but you can put about 2 ounces or less in a potato and you'll be fine with it. But let's just say we're going to go with about 2 ounces of silver. All right, now that should do about 3 or 4 rings at least, and then you're going to have, you know, your sprue, your button, and your tree trunk and everything. But the main thing that you got to do, the first thing is when you get your silver really liquid, and I mean it's got to be flowing. It's got to be flowing, okay? It's got to be liquid. And when you move that crucible around or that potato around, that silver's got to be really flowing, okay? It's got to be melted completely. And then when you get it to that point, what you want to do, you want to take and you want to put in a little bit of borax. Just plain old borax. You go to Walmart and buy a big box of borax. Don't buy it any other way. It's way too expensive. But you want to sprinkle in a little bit of borax. And what that's going to do is that's going to pull up all your impurities. Now, you've got to get the impurities out of your metal before you cast it. See, now this silver right here, this is an old tree stump, okay, and this is dirty. This silver's been melted over and over, but see, it's got impurities in it. It's dirty. Now, if you don't get those impurities out of your metal, you're not going to get a good casting. I'll tell you that right now. So the way to get the impurities out, you sprinkle a little bit of borax in there, and on the top of your silver, all the impurities are going to be on the top, floating on the top. So you get you some carbon, some graphite stirring rods, okay? You get some graphite stirring rod. You get a graphite stirring rod, and you stir that silver with that graphite stirring rod, and you rake across the top of it, and you pull all those impurities off of the top and get them out of there and get rid of the impurities. You've got to get the impurities out, okay? And then once you get all the impurities out and your silver is just perfectly shiny, clean metal, you can see that it's clean and shiny. You can see it. You'll be able to tell. Just look at it. But get those impurities out. But when you're melting that with your torch, what you want to do is you want to shake your potato or your little crucible, your little melting dish. If you're using a torch, you want to shake that a little bit side to side, just kind of wiggle it a little bit and make sure that silver is flowing. It's got to be flowing, smooth flowing silver. If it's not flowing, that means it's not hot enough. And if it's not hot enough, the minute that you go to pour your mold, it's going to solidify before your mold fills. It'll start to go in and it'll solidify because it cooled off too quick. But you got to get the impurities out, and then when you got your torch on your silver and you're melting your silver, you got to keep that torch right on that silver. Okay, you put your mold down, you got your vacuum on, you put your mold down, and you check your mold with some tongs. You don't ever grab this mold that's hot. I've done it, believe me. You forget and you don't think, and you grab a hot mold and you burn the crap out of your hands. You got to wear gloves too, all right? But you set that down and you got make sure it's tight. See, it's sucked down tight on the vacuum. Okay, you got to check that, and then you got your silver, but you keep your heat on your silver. You keep that torch right down on it and keep moving it a little and make sure it's flowing, and you come right over here, but you keep the heat right on the silver. Do not take the torch off your silver and then try to pour it. The minute you take that torch off your silver, it's going to cool off and you're not going to get a good casting. All right, so many people make that mistake. When they start out, they got dirty metal, or they don't have a good seal. They didn't check make sure that their can is tight. It's got to be tight. It's got to be sealed where it's pulling good vacuum. Or they take the torch over here and they heat it, and then they bring their little potato or their little melting dish over here, and then they go to pour it. Well, that silver's already cooled off. It'll pour down in there, but the minute it starts to go in that hole, it's going to solidify that quick. Silver solidifies really, really fast. As soon as you take the heat off of it, it's going to solidify, and you're not going to get a complete casting. And then you wasted your investment, you wasted your money on your wax patterns, and you wasted the time you spent building a tree. If you made a tree, that's all wasted. Okay, now those things can be avoided. All right, those things can absolutely be avoided. So I'm going to say it again. Critical, absolutely important. Put some borax, get the impurities out. Use a carbon rod, use a carbon stirring rod, scrape across the top of your silver, okay? Don't do it without the flux. The borax is the flux. The flux cleans the metal, okay? Don't do it without the borax. borax is flux, and that's exactly what flux does. It cleans the metal. You gotta have clean metal or your casting's not gonna come out, period. I'll tell you that right now. I know what I'm talking about. When I started out, I didn't have anybody telling me all this stuff, and I learned a lot the hard way. Okay, so you don't have to do that, because I'm telling you now, that's how you do it. Okay, but keep that heat on that silver the whole time you're pouring it. When you're moving your hand on top of the mold to get ready to pour it, when you got it over here, keep your torch right dead on it when you're pouring it. You do not want that silver to cool down. You just won't get a good casting. All right, that's enough said. That's that. I wanted to cover that. I thought that was important for everybody to know if they're going to be doing this, you know, on the cheap like I am, and using food cans and at home and everything. All right, now, but you got two cans there that you can use these, but if you just pour one ring, you're going to spend a lot more money on your investment. Okay, now it's, you know, it adds up. I mean, it's $1.25 for the investment on this size of a can. All right, now you can put 3 or 4 rings maximum in one of these small cans. I wouldn't put more than that. Okay. All right, now I normally don't pour these small cans, but last night I made a bunch of real tiny little parts. I was making real tiny little bezels. I could show you they're over there, but here's one right here. See this bezel? See how tiny of a bezel that is? That's a tiny little bezel. I was pouring tiny bezels, and it's a real thin part. Okay, but I was pouring I think I had about 14 of these little bitty bezels in each can, in each mold. But anyhow, that's not, I'm getting off track a little, but so there you go. Now, when you're using the 8-ounce food can, that's how you do it. Now, we're going to talk about, I got a tree right here. All right, now, you see this tree now. Now, there's some things I want to show you about this tree, okay? Now, I'm building this tree. Now, I'm going to go with this size can, which is what I normally run. And what this is a 16 ounce. This is a 16 ounce food can. All right. So, if you're going to run a 16 ounce can this size, it's going to cost you, if you buy the investment the way that at a good price, it's going to cost you $2.50 worth of investment to invest this whole can. All right, now a bigger can, you got to do some things a little bit differently. Now you don't want to run a lot of small molds. I mean, starting out, you can run some small molds in those little cans, but if you're going to really do any kind of production at all, you're going to want to run a bigger can like this. Now this tree right here that I'm building, so far, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got 6 good size rings. These are all good size rings. I got 6 good size rings on there. Okay, but I got about 6. I got 6 good size rings on here, but I'm going to have about probably 3 or 4 more rings on this tree. Okay, now, so I'm going to have me about 10 good size rings on this tree. So if you divide that, you got 10 rings. So you got $2 and $2.50 worth of investment, and you got 10 rings. So you're looking at maybe a little over 20 cents per ring for investment. Now that's not too bad, okay? Looking at it that way, that's not really too bad. Your wax patterns are going to cost you way more than your investment. So always remember that. Keep that in mind. Okay, now, but I'm going to show you a trick here. Now, I actually learned this trick from another channel. I was watching, I don't know, I can't remember how long ago it was, but this guy, I think he goes by the name of VOG. I believe it's the vegetable oil guy. He's I think he's like a British guy, I believe. But anyhow, he showed this in one of his videos, and I started doing it, and it's helped me a lot. Okay. But this guy is, he's got some good videos on casting and stuff. You might want to check him out, the vegetable oil guy. But anyhow, this is what he showed. And since I started doing this, it's really been made a big difference. Okay, now you see down in this can right here. Now, right here on the inside of this can, right up on the edge, I got some sprues. These are thick. This is thick sprue wax. Okay. Now I made these real simple by taking I got me some cornstarch and silicone. Let me see. I think I got the mold right here. I believe I got it. I got this mold right here. I'll show you this mold. All right. I made this mold right here out of cornstarch and silicone, and all I did, I got 2 parts on this mold. This is the cheapest mold you can make. All right, now watch my videos on mold making, and you can learn how to make there's all different types of molds. I mean, there's a lot of types of molds you can make. In fact, while we're talking about molds, right there, I got 2 molds I'm working on. Now these molds over here, these are a little bit different. Now, I'm going to make a video on this. I haven't covered this yet, but I'm getting ready to make a video on it. But these molds are actually made with this. This is Mold Builder, latex rubber. All right, now these are real good molds for certain types of parts. I'm not going to go into this in detail right now because I'm really talking about the casting part. But this is a chest piece right here, and this is a bezel. Okay, this bezel is going to go matching with this these little bezels I ran last night. Well, these are this is a whole necklace, and there's like 8 different bezels on it. It's a huge, big, fancy necklace with a lot of stones on it and stuff that I'm making. But this is latex rubber, and it's real good for certain molds. Okay, I'm not going to get off track, but I'm going to go back to this. But I just took me a dowel, a wooden dowel, and laid it in here. And this is a 2-piece mold. This is a cornstarch and silicone. This is a separated mold. But I just took a dowel, and you see that's how I got my round rod. And then I just take my wax injector and put wax in it. But I got 2. I got a rod, and then I got an ingot right here on this side is an ingot. So I can just pour me some ingot. I can cast me some ingots and do it that way, okay? All right, I don't have to use an ingot mold when I do it this way. But anyhow, that's the mold. But what I'm showing you is you take these, you take some sprue wax like this, some thick sprue wax. It's, you know, you can do it like that, make your own, it's way cheaper. But you just go in here and you go about four different places around this can, and you just make a little tiny notch right here on the edge of your can. There's a little notch right here, if you can see that. All right, and then what you do is, let me see if I can get a little better focus. What you do is, you just take and you lay this sprue wax right down in there like that. All right, if you can see that, you just lay that right down in there on the edge of your can, and you take a little piece of Scotch tape, and you put a tiny piece of Scotch tape over that, and you tape that down. That tape's not going to hurt a thing. It just burns up when you burn it out. And you just tape those down where they're up against the side of your can. Okay, now, and what this does, okay, this is really a great, this has made a tremendous difference in my castings. All right, but what this does is this allows more vacuum. All right, now this end of your can is going to go down against your vacuum table, okay? And what this does, this allows more vacuum. It's got a lot more surface area because the vacuum goes up and it sucks a lot more surface area, so it pulls a lot more vacuum than if you were just pulling vacuum from the bottom of your mold, okay? See? Because your investment's going to come right about up to here, close to the top of your can. Your investment's going to come right up here. But when you pour your investment on these, you just pour it up right about a little bit under this. So you got a little bit of that wax showing, so that when you go to burn your mold, that wax can run out of there, okay? That's real important. You don't cover these up with investment, because you want all this wax to be able to run out of there. All right, when you put this in your oven, you're going to put this in your household oven on 220 degrees. All right, but anyhow, so that on this size of a can, that's a real good thing to do. All right, but now I'm gonna give you a couple more tips. I know this video may be a little bit longer, and I apologize, but I got some good things here I want to share with you, and if you're going to be doing this, it's real important that you, I'm giving you some really good information that's can really save you a whole lot of hassle. Because you don't want to have a bad casting. All right, now if you got a tree right here like this, all right, now if you got this tree and you're going to cast it in a can this size, and you go to cast that, and if something goes wrong with that casting, guess what? If you got 10 patterns on here, you got $30 invested in these patterns, and if this don't come out, you just lost $30 on your wax, because that's just the way it is. But if you do everything, if you learn the right way to do this, and you do it the same every single time, your castings will come out. Now this is a bigger mold. This 16-ounce can is bigger, and you're going to pour it differently than you do those little cans. Okay, you can pour those little ones with a small little handheld crucible dish or a potato. The potato is absolutely the best crucible in the world for making a small casting. You don't lose any silver. You don't have to worry about glazing the crucible and all that. You don't have to do any of that. You just get a potato, slice off the top, carve it out with a spoon, carve a little tiny pouring spout on one end of the potato, and you're good to go. And you don't lose any silver. There's not going to be any silver that's going to stick, because the potato, it carbonizes, okay? I might have one right here. I don't know if I do or not. Actually, I do. This is an old one, but I'm going to show you. There's the potato. Now, see, it carbonizes. This potato carbonizes on the inside, okay? And you can use this potato, you can use one potato for, I don't know, maybe, I'm going to say 5. Okay, I'm going to say 5 or 6 pours. You can use this one potato for about 5 or 6 pours, okay? So you really can't beat it, okay? Especially if you're just starting out and you don't want to buy all this crazy stuff. You know, just don't buy melting dishes and all that. Just get a potato if you're going to make small castings starting out. All right, but now, we're talking about this tree here, all right? So now, if you got 10 parts on there, and they're $3 a piece, that's a typical price for a wax pattern. Some wax patterns are 15 and 20 bucks, okay? It just depends on what you're doing, okay? But now, I'm mostly talking about pouring silver tonight, okay? We're talking about silver tonight. But now, when you're making these trees, all right, there's a couple things that you need to know that's absolutely critical to your casting, okay? And it's, now I'm getting to some secrets that an average person probably isn't going to tell you this, okay? But from somebody who's done this a whole bunch of times, I'm telling you from experience that I'm giving you some tricks, some really good secrets right now that's going to really help you and get your castings to come out. All right, now one thing is your sprue. All right, now when you get wax patterns, they're always most always going to come with the sprue on the sprue right here on the back of this ring shank. See that sprue? Right there is the sprue. Now, I'm going to tell you something. That is not the best way to sprue a ring. Okay, if you just take this ring and you just put it right on your tree with that sprue, just like it is. Okay, now this is a wax pattern. Okay, and this is how they come. This is just exactly how when you get a wax pattern, they come like this. Now, there's a couple of things that you need to know. All right, now, on certain rings, one sprue right here on the back, on the middle of the ring shank is okay. It will work. If it's a light ring like this one, if it's thin, it's got a thin edge up here on the top. All right, this one sprue is enough for the metal to flow, and to flow through that sprue. I got a moth or something flying around. To flow through that sprue, and to fill it all the way around so that the whole ring gets filled with metal. But now I'm gonna tell you a big secret right now, and if you're just starting out, you're gonna really be glad that I showed you this. Okay, now you see this ring right here. I'm hoping you can see. All right, now this ring right here, if you look at this ring, you would think, oh, well, yeah, we know it's going to fill. We know the top is thin. We know that's going to all fill through this one small sprue. So we can just go ahead and stick it on our tree, correct? Wrong. Not correct. If you take this ring right here, this exact ring, and you just put it right on a tree, like that, and you make your casting, you're gonna have a problem. Okay, now what is the problem gonna be? The problem is gonna be, it's not gonna be that the ring right here is not gonna all be filled, because your metal should flow, because it's a thin enough surface area. Your metal should flow right around there and fill that. You should get a good full casting on it. But the problem you're going to have is right here. Okay, now this ring shank is really, really thin, right up against that sprue. All right, now you see that? It's real thin on a lot of ladies' rings. The back of the ring shank is really thin, right on the very back. Okay, now, here's what happens. No matter how careful you are, when you go to cut this, you're going to have to cut this sprue off of there, okay? When you get your tree out of there, you're going to have to cut this sprue off. And you're going to have to file this down where that sprue was. You're going to have to file that down. All right, but look how thin. Look how thin. See how thin that is? And this is just typical. Almost all ladies' rings are like this. They're very, very thin. Okay, now what you got to do is, right here, when you go to cut that, you cut that off, and no matter how careful you are, when you file this down, it's going to be so thin right here. All right, yeah, you can maybe get it and file it real careful, but when you go in here, now on the inside of this ring, I'm going to tell you something. When you go to finish a raw casting, all right, here's a raw casting, all right, here's a ring. This is a raw casting, all right, cut right off of the tree. Okay, I cut the sprue off. All right, right here I cut the sprue off. But now, when you go to finish your rings, what makes the difference between a nice looking ring and a ring that looks like crap is when you finish this all out and you file everything smooth and you sand it real smooth and you buff it, what makes the difference between a real beautiful ring and a piece of crap is if you finish the inside of this ring shank. All right, now, if the inside of this ring shank is not finished, and if it's not just as beautiful as the outside of the shank, If it's not as smooth and if it's not buffed down to a mirror finish, you're not going to have a quality ring. I'm just telling you, that's what makes the difference. You want, when you finish your rough castings, you want this ring to be finished. Okay, I don't have one right here handy, but you want the inside of this ring shank on the inside to look just as good as the outside. Let's put it that way. All right, and what's going to happen is, now this camera is not really very good as far as really getting in and focusing on some real sharp detail, but right here, okay, now I cut my sprue off and I lightly filed that down and I started sanding this down where this sprue was, but right here there's a low spot. Now I'm going to tell you something about low spots. Okay, when you get a low spot, you're screwed. Okay, you are screwed because when you're sanding across that and you got a low spot, now if you don't get that low spot out of there, it's going to look like shit. Okay, you got to get that low spot out, and to get that low spot out, you're going to have to take this metal, okay, and when you look around on your edge of your ring, you're going to have a flat spot where you've sanded that down and grinded that or filed it or whatever you're doing to try to get rid of that low spot, and you're going to have a flat spot and your ring is going to look like crap. Okay, now these are some secrets that I'm telling you. Okay, but now low spots are a nightmare. Okay, when you're going to have to learn how to finish your castings. Okay, and if you want a quality product in the end, I mean a professional piece of jewelry, in the end, the inside of that ring shank's got to be perfect, and so does the outside. And that means every low spot, it can't have low spots in it because they stick out and they show up like a sore thumb. A big old low spot will ruin your finished piece. So there's a way, and what you got to learn, there's a way to deal with that, with low spots. All right, now I know you probably won't be able to see because I can't. I'm going to get a better camera, and I'm going to be, work on where I can really zoom in real good for detail. But right on the inside here, when I go to finish this, I'm going to use something like this, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to go around here. And I'm going to sand that, lightly smooth that down and get it nice and smooth. All right, now, but after I sand that down nice and smooth, I'm going to have that line on there because that line right there is a low spot. Now, when you get your patterns, here's the wax pattern for this ring right here, okay? Here's the finished casting, and here's the pattern. Now, if you look on your patterns, what you got to do, you got to look very, very, very close at your patterns. I mean, you got to use magnification, all right, and you got to look at them with really good light and really good magnification, and you got to check every little bit of this pattern. Now see right here, just turning this pattern, and I'm not even using magnification right now. I'm just looking at it with naked eye. I can see, and my eyes are 2 feet away from this pattern, and I can see right here on this pattern, I can see a little bitty line, very faintly. But now when I use magnification, I can really see a line there. And the problem is, if I would just not check this pattern, if I'm just going to stick this pattern on a tree and cast it, I'll come out with something like this. Now, you can see that line is in the mold. All right, now, that line, but you're going to have to add some wax, and it's a little bit tricky, but it's not that hard to learn. But I got my wax pen here. All right, now I'm going to come in here with my wax pen. Now this ring shank is definitely not going to work because I got a big ridge running across it, and it's real thin to start with. So I'm going to thicken this up all the way around there. Okay, now I made a video on this wax pen right here. Now you can see the shape of that tip. Okay, that's absolutely critical and crucial. It's very important to doing this kind of work, that tip. Now, go and watch my video on making this pen. It's dead simple to do, but watch my video. I don't want to go over it now, but on how you shape that tip and how you make this pen. Because you're going to need a wax pen, something like this, or you're going to need another tool to get in here and work with your wax. You don't have to use a pen like this, but this is the best thing to use, and I highly recommend this is what you use. But now, you're going to have to add some wax. So what we're going to do, I'm hoping you can see this. Now we're going to take some sprue wax, and we're going to come right in here, and we're going to, now watch, I'm going to push this down, and you're going to see a drip. And a drip is going to start forming. All right, now you see that drip? See those drips? There, you saw that drip come down there? All right, now those drips are going to come down. You just push down on the top. Let me get a thicker piece of wax. All right, you go down here. Maybe I can show you better with this. This is a little bit smaller. But you come in here and you push down, and your drip is going to fall right down off of there. All right, now there goes the drips. Now, the problem is, if you come in here and you start dripping that wax right down onto there, what's going to happen is, because that wax is so hot, what it's going to do, it's just going to melt right through here, and it's going to melt your whole piece and ruin it. So what you got to do is, you got to come in here, all right, and I'm going to get some tweezers. Now, you're going to have to learn how to work with tweezers, okay? You absolutely have to learn to work with tweezers when you're doing this kind of work, because this is how you can get in tight areas, all right? And this is how you're going to be able to do what you need to do, because your fingers are usually just too big and bulky, and they just get in the way. All right, but you learn to work with tweezers, because you know, for holding your wax and everything, and for holding your patterns and everything, you just learn to work with tweezers. And you know, if your hands are not steady, well, you'll learn how to have a steady hand. You got to have a pretty good steady hand. All right, you got to hold something still. If you're shaking all over, it's not going to be real good. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to come in here, if you can see this now, and I'm going to put that on there, I'm going to hold my pen so my drip is going to fall down. And then when my drip falls off of here, oh, drop that one. All right, let's try again. But when your drip falls off of here, you'll see it. You'll see that drip build up, and then you catch the drip on this little piece of wax. Then you let it cool, and then you come in here and you touch it down where you need it. Okay. What you do, you come in here, you get your drip, and you catch it right on the end, and you come in here and you lightly apply your wax. All right, I hope you can see what I'm doing here. I'm putting that down, and I'm dripping it. I'm catching my drip on this piece of wax. You see that? And I'm applying it to this ring shank with this piece of wax right here. Okay, I'm not dripping hot wax on there, because if I do, it's just going to melt right through my ring shank and ruin the whole wax pattern. Okay, now that's basically how you do that. Okay, you just got to practice that. You know, I got this camera right here. It's right in my way. I'm trying to show you, and this is a little awkward. Okay, now if I didn't have this camera to try to maneuver around, I could do this a whole lot easier. I'm trying to show you, and it's not as easy as if I had, you know. But look, see that drip? Look. Then I drip it. I catch it down here. Then I come in. Then I let it cool, see? And then I put it where I need it in here. All right? And you can lightly, very, very, very lightly, after it's cooled, you can come in here and just barely touch that across there and smooth it. But you got to be careful, because you can easily melt your whole pattern. But you're just going to come in here and build this up with some wax. All right, just like that. You know, whatever, you'll get comfortable with what size wax, of sprue wax, that you need. See, I usually collect these little pieces when I'm using my wax injector. This is what you'll get. I got mine sitting on the edge of a shelf, and where it drips down, these are drips, okay? And now also, when you're shooting a mold, if you let some wax run out of that mold, and you take a piece of wood or something and lay it up under it, or something with a smooth surface, and let that wax, a big drip of that wax will just run down right across that board or whatever you got there, plastic or whatever you got, and it'll make a real nice long piece of sprue wax. That's how I make my sprue wax, is by letting the wax, after it fills the mold, and then it will overflow and it'll run down onto a piece of wood or something that's smooth, and you just let it run down on it, and it'll run all the way down and make a real nice long rounded shape piece of sprue wax, just like this. But this is just a little drip. This is a small drip that I collect all these little drips, and then I can use them. But see, I'm gonna try to show you again. You push it down on the top, and you feed it in there, and then you get that drip. When it starts to drip, You catch it right on there, and then look, I'm letting it cool, and then I'm going to take it. No, well, I put it up there, but this camera's in my way. But you see what I'm showing you? All right, I'm twisted around here. My back is like all kinked up because I'm trying to show you this, and it's maybe I can get over here and get a little bit of a better position on this, but it's really not. It's really not as hard as you think it is. See? All right, now you get it? And there it is. It drips down. You can even do it like that. See? See that drop? See? You collect it on this wax first, and it's cool. And then by the time you get it, see, by the time you get it over here, it's cool. And you just you go in here, and you build this up. Okay, you build that up all the way on the inside. You build that up, and then you come in here and you lightly smooth it on the top. You got to be real careful and gentle. All right, you lightly smooth that around there. See, a lot of people think this takes all, that doing casting takes all the work out. Well, it doesn't, okay? I'm telling you that right now. There's work involved. But it sure beats the amount of time that it's going to take you to make, something like this completely by hand. Forget about it. You're talking hours and hours of work. But now, not all patterns are going to need to be worked on in this way, but some are. Those real thin rings with real thin shanks, you can just almost guarantee if you just stick them on a tree, you're never going to get that part finished, and you're going to throw it in the garbage, and then you just wasted all that time. Now, see something like this. Right here, see this pattern? See, it's a lot thicker. See? The back of that ring shank is a lot thicker right there, okay? See, I can see just by looking at this that I got a low spot right on top of that sprue. You don't really notice it, but when you start looking for this stuff, you do notice it. And then when you put your magnification on, you really can see that, but you got to repair that. You can't cast it like that, or the piece won't, when you try to get that finished, you just won't be able to do it. It's going to look like crap. Now, you see how this is real thick on this right here? See, it's a lot thicker right there. Now, if you got it real thick, and you need to come in here, you get your X-Acto knife, a real sharp blade, and you come in here, and you very gently, you carve this out. All right? You carve it out. And you can level that down, but remember, a high spot is okay. It's better than a low spot. A low spot is impossible almost to finish, I'm telling you. If you don't believe me, you'll just have to cast a few rings and with some low spots and see the frustration of trying to get that ring finished, because you're not going to get it finished with low spots on it. But see, that's high right there. I can trim that back a little. All right, so but you gotta learn to work with the wax, and that's what you do. You add wax, you drip it on there, then you can smooth it a little, and then you if you need to come in here and carve this a little bit, if it's a little bit too high, you can shave it down a little bit. Okay, and then you can come in here with your lighter fluid and you can smooth that up. But now, like I said about this lighter fluid, all right, I can smooth that down with some lighter fluid. But like I said, this lighter fluid is gonna, it's a wax solvent. It's a mild wax solvent, but it will dissolve super fine details. Now see this pattern right here? All right, now look at this cross right here. All right, now there's some super fine details on the, there's a little dove in here. Right here's a little dove, and it's got super fine details. And then there's his face. Okay, right in there is his face. Now, and then on his face here, on his bigger face, this is a double crucifix cross. But see on his face up there, it's real fine details. Now, if I come in here and I put a lot of lighter fluid on here, all right, I come in here and I dump that with lighter fluid, and just with my fingers, just taking my fingers and rubbing that. If I rub that a little too hard, see, I just took all the details right out of his face and ruined the piece. That's what I'm trying to say. You know, a lot of wax patterns have extreme details. Okay, I'm talking extremely fine details, and you cannot take lighter fluid and start soaking it and rubbing it too hard, because you'll ruin the piece. Here's this bezel. I made all these last night. All right, now see that bezel? There's I don't even think you can see it, but there's little tiny diamond shaped pieces, little diamond shaped detail running all around this piece right here. Very fine detail. Now I can go in there with lighter fluid and ruin that. Okay, so you don't want to use that lighter fluid on a piece with super fine details. It will dissolve it. All right, I mean, I know this is a long video, and I'm sorry about the length of the video, but I feel that if you know this stuff, by knowing what I'm showing you today, you're gonna save yourself hours and hours of frustration, of money, time, and everything. Now see, I just put a lot of lighter fluid on that, and I lightly rub that. Well, that's how fine they are. It just broke. See, it basically, that sprue was so fine, it basically dissolved that. So on little bitty tiny fine pieces with fine detail, you're not going to put lighter fluid on the details. But now, like this cross right here, on the back of this cross right here, see, now that's flat on the back, but I look at that real close and it's not perfectly flat. It's close to it, but so I can come in and I can put a couple drops, just a couple drops on the back, and I can just come in here. Sorry about that. I can just come right in here with my little piece of denim and lightly rub this. Okay. Well, I'm trying to show you here, but I know you're getting the gist of it, so that's what matters. But I lightly rub that down, and that, if I'm real careful and I lightly rub that across there, and smooth that up, and it don't take but a second. Now I can just feel that with my finger. That's real smooth. That's nice and smooth. Maybe a couple more drops and rub it again, but I want it as smooth as I can get it, staying away from my details, okay? But you almost always have to use lighter fluid on patterns that, but I'm telling you, check your patterns and check them good. Every little single line that's on there has got to be smoothed out. Okay, now you got to smooth them out. And if there's low spots, you have to add some wax onto the low spot. And if it's a thin shank, like even this ring right here, that's a thin shank. It's not super thin. But I could see on this pattern, well, this pattern is, needs quite a bit of work. But a lot of patterns will need work. It's just they cannot come out 100% perfect. But because we're talking about making jewelry, and jewelry, the whole principle of jewelry is detail. Okay, fine detail. That's what makes jewelry valuable. That's what makes it expensive. Is nice detail. All right, now you see this piece right here. There's some real nice detail on here. Okay, on the front of that. Really beautiful detail on these things. All right, but anyhow, I think I'm gonna wrap it up. I know it's been long, but I hope that I have helped you. I know I repeat myself a lot, and the reason I do that is because when I repeat something, that's because I feel it's super, super, super important for you to know it, okay? All right, well, I'm going to wrap it up, but actually I want to show you one more little thing here. Is what I want to show you something on this tree right here. All right, now, you see this ring right here? This ring. All right, now I have this ring sprued from the main trunk of my tree coming up to the edge of the ring here, and then I got it sprued on the back. Now, depending on the angle that you put your patterns on your tree, see, you got to realize the metal's going to flow. You turn that tree. Here, let me show you like this better. And it is so friggin' hot out here in this garage out here where I'm working. It's got to be 120 degrees in here. I mean, it's just unbelievable hot. But you see that? Now you gotta be able to look at your tree and visualize and think about the physics of how the metal's running. The metal's going to run downhill, all right, and then it's going to run down, and then it's going to flow out, and it's going to flow around. But now, sometimes you have to angle your patterns on a different angle to fit them onto your tree to get the right placement, because what you do is you put this tree on your But when you build a tree, you're starting off and you got your main trunk right here. And the first thing you do is you put a piece, your first piece, you put it right on top of that sprue. See, I got this eagle head ring right on top of that tree trunk, dead on top. And then you're going to start putting more pieces on, but they're going to be angled. But what you do is, after you get 2 or 3 pieces on here, you gotta take your can and you gotta set it down over your you gotta set that can down over your patterns. All right, now you gotta have a real good light to see down in there, but you gotta make sure that none of those patterns are touching the walls of the can, or touching it or too close to it. All right, and then you got to adjust your can and look. All right, and then, now I know you can't really see down in there, but what you got to do is you got to take a flashlight, okay, which I think my batteries up there in that one are dead, but you got to get a flashlight and you got to look in here. And you got to make sure that those patterns are not too close to the edge. They cannot be too close, because if they are, where they're super, super close to the edge of that can, what's going to happen when you burn that out, that investment can crack. Where that's super, super, super thin, it can crack. But you got to look down in here with a strong light and make sure all around, check it real good, okay? And then you don't just build a whole tree and hope that the can's going to fit down over it. You put two parts on it, put your can down there, check the angles of everything, take your can back out, put a couple more on, and each time you add a piece, put it down and check your angles of your part. You may have to angle some of your parts, okay, at a little bit of an angle upward, okay, instead of downwards. In other words, this is angling down this way. Well, I might have to angle it up just a little. Like this ring right here, okay, this ring right here is angled up, see, a little bit instead of angled down. I had to do that because of placement, all right? But now, that's why I put this sprue on there, if you can see that. I put this sprue right here on from my trunk to the edge of this ring down here, because this ring on that angle, if this point of the ring out here is higher up than the entry point of the metal, the ring is not going to fill in the bottom. But if I got a sprue that's running down from my trunk to the edge of my ring, it's going to fill. Now you got to learn how to sprue. You got to learn what angles to put your parts on. There's more to it than just slapping your patterns on a tree and hoping for the best, okay? You can't do that. You got to take time, you know, like I said. Now, once you learn all this stuff, and once you get casting, and once you make a bunch of molds, you know, you're going to learn it, and you'll get faster and faster, and you'll get better and better. But if you can't work with wax, if you don't know how to work with wax, how to add wax to your patterns, and sometimes you got to take away wax, And then you got to get it real smooth, and you got to, you got to get it as close to perfect as you can. Now, if you don't learn that, you're not going to have any luck whatsoever doing jewelry casting. But it's not as hard as you might think it is. Okay, don't be discouraged by this, because you can learn this. I learned it, and a lot of people learn it. But at first, it's going to be, I don't want you to waste a whole lot of time and money and jump into casting without knowing some secrets here. Okay, now these secrets today that I'm giving and showing, these secrets are going to be worth a lot of money to you if you get into this. And if you have the patience and you stick with it and you don't give up and you pursue this, these secrets that I'm showing you today are going to be invaluable to you. All right? Trust me. I mean, you can spend a lot of hours of frustration and time and money and get nowhere with lost wax casting. That's just how it goes. It's not something that you just go and you think because you got all this equipment and everything that you're going to get a good casting. That has nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing to do with it. Okay? What does have to do with it is knowing these secrets and learning how to do this the right way from the beginning. It's just like making these trees. Now, at first, it might be frustrating to you, all right? And it probably will. But don't give up. It's just like silversmithing. Most people, they get a hold of a jeweler's saw and they go and they think they're going to cut a piece of metal, and then all of a sudden they're like, holy shit. They're like, damn, this is hard. Well, no, it's not hard once you learn it, but you got to learn it. And it's going to take patience, and it's going to take determination. But what I want to say, and then I'm going to wrap it up, is if you don't give up, okay, and you keep going with it, no matter what happens, once you do your first perfect casted tree, or once you make your first perfectly cast ring, I promise you that you will absolutely be hooked on this for life. That's just the way it is. This is just such an awesome thing. It's like so rewarding. I mean, I can show you literally hundreds of pictures of jewelry that I've made from casting and silversmithing that will just blow your mind. Okay, I mean, just mind-blowing. But I didn't start out in my first week of working on this. I didn't start out and get those results.
Okay, I have to wrap this up, but if you're interested in learning this or silversmithing, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel. And if you do decide to subscribe, just if you would put me a little note in the comment section and say I subscribed, that would be awesome. So that would really be great. So thanks for sticking with me through such a long video. My name's Steve, and I'll talk to you in the next video.